The deadline for filing a tax return for the year 2021 has just been extended. Previously, the deadline was the 31st of July 2022, but right now it has been extended by 3 months to 31st October 2022. So now you have 3 extra months to file your tax return. This deadline only applies to people who have an obligation to submit a tax return. Before I continue, I have to bust a myth that most people believe. A tax return does not become mandatory once you have submitted your tax return voluntarily. I too believe this myth, but this is not true. So, if you file a tax return in Germany voluntarily, you do not have to submit it next year. You are only obliged to file a tax return if you are in one of the following situations. Number 1, you have received wage replacement benefits such as unemployment benefits, sickness benefits, or short-term work benefits for more than 410 euros. Number 2, you had multiple employments at a single time. Number 3, you have capital gains for which no withholding tax could be charged. Number 4, as an unmarried or divorced partners, you want to transfer certain allowances for a child. And number 5, you or your working spouse were in tax class 5 or 6 for part of the year or whole of the year. For non-obligatory filers, you can submit a tax return up to 4 years in the past. These deadlines are only valid for people who file their tax returns in Germany on their own. Tax returns prepared by tax consultants, income tax assistant associations, or other persons authorized to provide advice have different deadlines altogether. For example, if you get your Steurerklärung done by a Steuerberater or a Steuerhilfeverein, you can even submit a tax return for the year 2020 till the end of August 2022. The deadline for other years is given here. Let's say you have missed your deadline and still want to submit your tax return in Germany on your own. You can even request a deadline extension. An extension can be easily done in an informal letter. In this letter, you state the reason for the delay, for example, missing documents or even an illness, and send it by post or fax to your responsible tax office stating your tax identification number. If the tax office has neither the income tax return nor an application for an extension for the deadline, they often ask taxpayers to submit the tax. The date specified in this letter should not be allowed to pass, otherwise a late fee will be charged. I have discussed late fees in this video. If you have never submitted a tax return at all as a taxpayer in Germany, the tax office can still request the tax return within 7 years if they seem it necessary. If you then lack the receipts, the tax office will estimate your tax, and that can be to your disadvantage. On submitting a tax return, you can get an average up to 1000 euros back. But let's say if you notice that your tax return had incorrect information after receiving your tax assessment notice from the tax office, you can correct this by applying for a simple amendment within 1 month of receiving the tax assessment notice. The points that you mention in your amendment application will be reviewed by the tax office. They can be as simple as entering a wrong address or forgetting to enter your semester fee. The tax assessment will only be changed if it is in your favor. You can also file for an appeal if the simple amendment does not suffice. For example, if the tax office does not recognize some of your income-related expenses like Werbungkosten. If this is the case, your entire application will be re-examined. You don't need to provide a specific reason for your appeal, but you also do not have any influence over which items will be re-examined. That said, there is absolutely nothing to lose by submitting a voluntary tax return. If you submit a voluntary tax return and it turns out that you owe some money and the tax office demands an additional tax payment, you can simply withdraw your application. The only catch is that you have to ensure you complete this within 1 month. After that, the appeal deadline ends. So submitting a tax return can be totally worth it even if you are not obliged to submitting it. To get the maximum amount back, you need to know what kind of expenses you need to put in your tax return in Germany. In this video, I'll share how to claim money sent to your parents in a tax return. Click or tap here if you are looking for a step-by-step guide to submitting a tax return in Germany. So thanks for watching, bleib gesund, and I'll see you in this video.